to hear and see the program, you can go to the YouTube channel, type in the word Talktainment, and then type in the word radio, and then scroll down to Talktainment number 2. And you're there. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button and the like button. Would you do that? And of course, you can also do this. Go to, if you want to contact me, you can email me or Gmail me by going to the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby at gmail.com, and I will get the Gmail. I may not read it today, but it'll be in line to be read. And of course, to hear the program in its entirety, if you would like to be on Facebook, go to facebook.com/Talktainment, and we are there. Okay, today's program is entitled Unfinished Business. This is for Wednesday, March the 6th, 2019. I will repeat that throughout the program, and that came from one of our listeners to make sure that we give the date of the program, and I took that suggestion very well. It's very good to identify that so the shows can be separate. So today being Wednesday, March the 6th, 2019's program, Unfinished Business. And what we're going to do today is continue on the theme of words. How to construct and answer questions staying in the compensatory counter-racist codified way. If you notice, Mr. Fuller very rarely gets away from being codified. You will hear that all throughout the program, to focus our concentration on being codified. And he will explain that in everything that we do. So without further interruptions, let me present to some and introduce to others Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Mr. Fuller, good morning, and how are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
You are still learning. Okay. Today's program, Mr. Fuller, is entitled Unfinished Business, and last week, I believe near the end of the program, I got a Gmail, and the Gmail indicated something about the LBGTQ, and then they had IA, whatever, and I didn't know what that was, and you had mentioned many times that they are at least 21 separate I guess identification marks concerning to sexuality, but the main point is that they were it's all confusing. But anyway, I looked that up via my Google search, and this is what I came up with. It is actually right now, I guess this is official, I'm not sure, but it's LGBTQQIAAP. Now, I didn't know what that meant, so I looked it up, and here's what the Google search indicated. That stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, intersex, asexual, allies, and pansexual. With a other 9 underlying the umbrella of being queer. I don't exactly know what that means, but it seems to me that it keeps on adding on. Someone had mentioned that the AI stood for artificial intelligence, and there have been some incidents, and many incidents, where people are beginning to communicate and do, I guess, human things to, or people things to artificial intelligence. And I'm being nice the way I'm wording that. And also, and P was supposed to stand for pedophilia, and there's been a lot of that, at least exposed. It's been going on. But anyway, that is what it is, according to the Google that I did from last week on the search. You care to make a comment about that, Mr. Fuller, in terms of adding on to the confusion and sexuality?
The textbook for victims of white supremacy, I came up with a whole lot of possible sexualities, of the new sexualities that supremacists, like in anything dealing with any area of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, war, the white supremacists, whatever is going on with non-white people, they are going to see to it that it is entirely corrupt and non-constructive. That would be the word, better word than any other term I can come up with. Non-constructive activity. Just what you call the male-female, traditional, what they call straight. The white supremacists have completely corrupted that. So it's logical that they will also, in what they call LGBTQ and all the other alphabetical additions that might run as many as 75 or 80 different categories and whatnot, they keep adding on. I don't know where it's going to stop. How many different types of sexuality or anti-sexuality or blended sexualities or non-sexualities. I have no way of knowing what that's all about because I'm not getting any explanations about the details of what all of these categories are supposed to produce and what the constructive result is supposed to be for society as a whole. And this is something that I think should be discussed. Anytime anybody makes big adjustments of any kind in any area of activity, whether you're talking about economics or education or entertainment or religion, if you're making big adjustments, everything in fine detail should be explained in fine detail. And also, this is just, the compensatory view, not only explain in fine detail of what it is, but what the constructive results are supposed to be. Anytime you're making any kind of introduction or any kind of changes of any kind, if you're putting up a brand new apartment building of some type, and you say, well, this is the most luxurious type, the most functional type, the best type of architecture in this new apartment building that's going up than we have ever had. Well, the person who is doing that should be able to explain in detail, well, is it an improvement? That's the question. Is it an improvement over what we already have? And the person says, oh, the improvement is vast. Oh, yes. I mean, this is off the hook. And so you say, okay, well, give me the details. Where are the improvements? And the person may proceed to say, well, the washers and dryers and, in the place, on the premises and whatnot, are the best that has ever been designed. The view is the best that has ever been designed in a structure of this type in the environment that it's in, and go in all the details. Now, if you're talking about sexuality, you should do the same thing. You say, where's the improvement? And what's going to be the constructive results? And somebody should step forward and say, oh, it's going to be a whole lot better than that old straight stuff we've had for centuries. Oh, that's not, wow, that's obsolete. Where have you been? No, these new sexualities, that's what it's really all about. And I'm going to tell you all the benefits that go with this and all of the constructive results. Mind, body, spirit. It's going to even improve our religions in a way that they have never, ever been improved. And this, the legal aspects, the economic aspects, the overall educational aspects. Oh, this is going to be just overwhelming. I mean, it's going to be beyond belief. I mean, these new sexualities that we're adding on, and we want black people to be the pioneers. I mean, since they've been held back so long, we want them right out front. Well, the code says beware. Beware. If you're a person of color, back off until you get all the answers to all the possible questions that can ever be asked about how all of these new sexualities are going to improve black people beyond belief.
All righty. Beyond belief. asking questions. And as you heard, Mr. Fuller is still in the codified way. Let's take this phone call. Good morning, caller. You are on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Is on line one?
You are on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Thank you and Mr. Fuller for answering this call and for the time and energy in this program. My name is John Farrow, also known as Ian. For a long time and constant listener. I live in Philly. I have numerous issues and informations, but on this call, I will only say a few because of the time matter. The first issue is I tried several times to donate, but each time I get to spinning, and the spinning never stops, so I haven't been able to donate. So I sent a letter. I'm sending a letter with a money order, and it's being mailed to you, Mr. Bobby, at 462 Walnut Street in Ohio. You know the rest of the address.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you for that.
And I'm wondering if others experience the same problem that I have, because it's the ongoing problem that I have.
Okay. Let me say this. I have no knowledge of that. At least no one has spoken to me in an official capacity concerning that. But as you have stated now publicly, it is definitely going to be addressed, and you did the correct thing by mailing it to the address that you know. So you did okay, and like I said, I'm sure that they will look into that, why this spending suspension is going on. But thank you for pointing that out. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. All right. And the second thing is the only thing that I don't like about the 1984 edition of the code is the binding on that book, and I don't know if the same binding is being used now, because Mr. Fuller said that it's another issue of that book being presented, and I don't know if they changed the binding, but I've had a couple of copies of the earlier edition. I'm talking about the 1984, everyone, and I had a few of them, and each one of them, the binding, if you don't handle it very, very carefully, opening and closing the book, then eventually the pages start falling out.
Okay, let me have Mr. Fuller address that. Mr. Fuller, could you address the problems that my brother is having with the 1984 edition?
Now that's the large. Is that the larger?
Yes, sir.
That's the large book. Yes, there were huge problems with that, and that only came. The information came to me years ago, so I no longer did business with the people who were doing the binding because of that. So the downsized version, there should not be that problem. But that was the original, going back to the 1980s, the early 1980s. Anybody who has that the larger book, the size of a sheet of paper, anybody who has that will have that problem most likely. Now that was corrected by another printer back during that time, but that book is no longer out here now. It's no longer being printed by these people. Binding, the binders now. We've got different binders now, so you shouldn't have that problem with the downsized version.
Okay, and your next, okay,
that goes back. That's a couple of decades ago. But anybody who has that original, they're likely to have that problem.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I prefer the 26th edition of the book. Among other reasons, is because of the size and the compactness of it, and the binding on this new edition is awesome, and it has a better wear that you can get out of the book.
Oh, okay. All righty. Okay, Brad. Well, thank you for that.
I got something else.
Okay, well, go ahead. One more question quickly.
All right. Now, this is not really a question. This is some information. All right. And I have said this information before about the book, but I don't know if people really understood what I was saying or whether they got it or not. So I'm repeating it, and it may be good to repeat it on this air so people will know. In regards to the awesome program that was a few weeks ago, and it is about to happen today, in regards to words, the best dictionary for its price, and I could say pound for pound, is the American Heritage Dictionary of the English language, the unabridged version of it. Now, the reason that I said that that's the best dictionary, pound for pound, is because, unlike the Webster Dictionary and others, the American Heritage Dictionary of the English language, the unabridged version, it has 2 appendixes in the back of the book, which the other dictionaries don't have, such as Webster and these other dictionaries. They don't have appendices in the back. Now, the appendices is one appendices is the Indo-European roots, and the other appendices in the back is the Semitic roots. So when you look up a word, some of the words that you look up will have Indo-European roots, and they'll have Semitic roots that will give you the etymology of the word.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And in this book, the appendix is for the etymological information about the word, and the other dictionaries don't have that.
Okay.
So when you look up a word in the American Heritage Dictionary, you look for the bottom line, the last definition, rather than the first definition. In other words, they have the 1, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
But in the American Heritage, the bottom, because at the bottom, if it has a bracket where it has the Indo-European roots, then you can find the etymological definition and root of the word, which oftentimes have a different meaning than the meaning that is used today.
Okay.
So you get today's definition, and then you get the etymological definition, which is the root. Okay. The Semitic roots.
I'm up against the break, brother. I'm going to have to let it go, but you did bring up some very good points for us to look at. I have to go now, but thank you so much for that information. Thank you so much, sir. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All righty, brother brought up some good information, but let me do this here. Have to. TalkToMeRadio.com is a 24/7, no-charge, worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now, here's a couple of shows, or 3, that I have to mention. One is known as the Quay Morgan Hill Show. Very good show. Just outstanding, that young lady. Stairway to Heaven is another good show with host Claude. And, of course, my other show, Talking Sports Plus, with Mr. Bobby, Trent, and now Miss Rita. Now, all these shows are exclusive to TalkTainmentRadio.com, and all you have to do is go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage, click on programs, and then there is a list of all the programs that we have, and you can select which one that you would care to listen to. Why don't you do that? All that from talktainmentradio.com. That is radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, and our main topic today, or subject today, is unfinished business. And what we're doing is we are continuing in the theme of words, how to construct and answer questions, staying in the compensatory counter-racist codified way or codified mode. We take questions and have Mr. Fuller address those questions. Okay, now I have about 6 minutes before I go to break, but the line is open, so let me take the phone call before we have Mr. Fuller get into that. Go ahead, caller, with your question.
Yes, hello, can I be heard?
I hear you.
Yes, hello, Mr. Bobby and Mr. Fuller. This is Mr. Walker calling out of Pennsylvania. Since we're on words and the use of words, what was it? 66. It was after 66. Well, I have a question. It's dealing with words, but the use of critical thinking. I was just wondering if we could employ that in the use of supporting justice and in the white supremacy, because I believe that if we would use critical thinking and ask the critical questions, then that would clear up a lot of the confusion. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Fuller, would you address that, please?
No, I have no comment on that because you made a suggestion. So that comes under VGQ as a suggestion. So whatever critical thinking means. So you always start with what a term that you're using. You start with what do you mean by critical thinking. So that would be the question there, and then proceed from there.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
That is the codified counter-racist response.
Yeah, you always start with a definition.
Mm-hmm.
You never have a word without a definition or a term.
What does that mean?
Always define exactly what you mean and try to do so in a manner that the person that you're talking to understands exactly what you mean when you say what you say.
Or what they mean when they say what they say.
Whatever person is doing the talking.
Yes.
Regardless of definitions that might be in a dictionary. Let the person explain what he or she means when he or she uses, the individual person uses the term, because otherwise you have confusion. And usually you do have a breakdown in communications when people who are using the same word, the same term, but they have different meanings for it when they say it.
Yes.
And that should always be cleared up by the person who's doing the speaking.
Yes, sir.
If you use a term that everybody's supposed to be familiar with, they may not be familiar with the way that you are using it. So you can explain exactly what you mean when you say that.
Yes, sir. And
that's the compensatory way.
And counter-racist codified says that we are not to help them with whatever they are explaining. The question is, we are not to help them with whatever they are explaining.
Oh, no. Never help a person with their definition.
Yes.
Listen to their definition and then try to understand what the person who is talking, how they are using the term, what it means to them. Like the terms that put on what they call the MAGA caps. Make America Great Again.
Yes.
For an example.
Yes.
Well, rather than get angry and start an argument or think that someone is arguing with you if they're wearing that cap, the compensatory codified procedure, we should have correct procedures for everything, is to ask the person if you are on a talking basis with the person. So what does that cap mean when you wear it to you? All right, and what is it supposed to mean to people who see you wearing it? And when you say it, make America great again, what does that mean? And break down each word. What do you mean by make? You know, you're going to make something, you know, you're going to make America, okay? you're going to make America great, and then you get to the last word, again. You know?
Yes, sir.
And you can ask maybe 3 or 4 dozen questions just about those 4 words.
Yes,
Make
sir.
America great again. And let the person answer, and don't argue about the answer. Just listen to the answers. Because codified procedure is when you ask people enough questions, the answers will take everybody right where they need to be. Might not take everybody where they want to go, but it will take everybody automatically right where they need to be, where they should be. That's automatic. Anybody who tries it will find that out. But you have to ask enough questions about each word. So you don't skip over any word. And you don't ask anything about the person's motive or anything. You just ask, what do these words mean? And the motive will all come out in their answers.
Yes, sir. So would you say that codification, answering and asking in a codified way, is a process?
Yes, you just simply if an answer to a question about a certain word is not adequate, the cure for that is just to ask another question.
Got it.
And then another question. And then another question.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you might spend 2 hours or 2 days or 6 months just talking about what does a person mean when they say America.
Got it.
Or an American.
Okay.
That might call for 2,000 questions.
All right. Talk to him at radio.
Might call for 10.
All right. Talk to him at radio. I am the co-host on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., who is live from Washington, D.C. Today's program on the 6th of March, 2019, is entitled Unfinished Business. And we are continuing with this theme of words, how to construct and answer questions, staying, and that's important, staying in the compensatory, counter-racist, codified way or mode. And Mr. Fuller has been answering those questions. In fact, be honest with you, he always answers that question, but sometimes I think, I know I do, we lose focus, we drift away from that. But we have to stay in that codified way so that we can understand, communicate with the person whom we're speaking with. With that being said, and I'm going to say this, you can be heard right now. So go ahead, whoever is on line 1, go ahead, please, with your question for Mr. Fuller.
Yes, hello, Mr. Fuller. I'm prepared now. I wasn't prepared before. This is Mr. Walker from Pennsylvania. With the use of words on page 108 of the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept under Area 2 Education, it says, use words as scientific weapons. Study and use words, the definition of words, and on the production of words in such a manner as to cause the white supremacist races to decide to do one of 2 things. 1, replace white supremacy racism with justice, balance between people, or 2, kill all of the non-white people of the known universe. So I just want to ask if those are the only 2 ways that words can possibly be used. Thank you.
Well, words can be used to do whatever you set out to do. That's words are just a form of communication in order to do what? To get something done. Get something like what done? Anything that you're trying to do. And words are just a way, they're just tools that people use to get from point A, you might say, to point B. In other words, what is it you're trying to do? So you use words in order to help you to accomplish what is it you're trying to do. If you're trying to rob somebody, you use words. You announce that this is a robbery. Stick them up. Put your hands in the air. Give me all your money. That's robbery. Those are words that you're using. Why? In order to accomplish a task that you're trying to set out to do. That's the way that a robber does business. So it's the same way when you're trying to accomplish anything. Set up any type of a brand new society with brand new ideas, ideas that people have never thought of before, or something like that. So you use words that will guide you in that direction. That's all. They're just a vehicle.
Okay. So the question could come up if we're sticking to the compensatory counter-racist codified way is when we read that on page 108 in the middle, they use words as scientific weapons. So we would have to define what are or what is a scientific weapons. Would that be the correct procedure to start this off?
Yes, or you can just say a weapon that's successful. Now, that's if you put scientific in front of it, a person will ask, well, what do you mean by scientific?
Yes. Okay.
What's the difference between scientific and non-scientific?
Okay.
Okay. Well, I don't know what the answer would be. Whomever's using the terms should explain what every word means.
Okay.
Otherwise, take that word out of there if you can't explain it.
Okay, now, I think as the brother from Pennsylvania was saying, since you did write this, use words as scientific weapons, and I think you did answer, unless I'm wrong, you said, quote, study and use words, the definition of words and or the production of words in such a manner as to cause the white supremacist racists to decide to do one of two things. Number one, replace white supremacy racism with justice, which you explain, balance between people, or to kill all of the non-white people and of the known universe. So you explained it, right there in the use of words. Correctly? Yes.
That's the objective of the entire compensatory code as far as interaction between white people and non-white people.
Yes, sir. Okay.
That's from the codified view. Either you force them into a position where they have to do justice, or they have to make a decision.
Exactly.
We're going to kill all these black people. I mean, there's no way around it. I mean, we're just going to have to slaughter them all so that they don't exist. They're going to be an extinct breed. They shouldn't have been here in the first place. Or, if they were here to serve us up to a point, we don't need them anymore.
Yes, sir.
And so, therefore, they shouldn't be on this planet, sharing this space with us. Everybody on the planet should be white. Get rid of all the non-white people, and then we go forward from there into our heavenly bliss, or whatever it is they say that their objective is.
Okay. Well,
I'm saying, from the victim's viewpoint, and it's not a new concept. In fact, the white supremacists, or I'll say some people during the history of the system of white supremacy, at least one person, I have been told in a history book, and by teachers, it was called a person called Patrick Henry. And he said what? Give me liberty or give me death. In other words, if I can't be a human being and occupy my little time that I have on this planet without just being dogged around all the time and just be miserable all the time, I might as well not even be here. And so I'm going to fight against whatever forces are putting me in this situation that I say that I shouldn't be in. And in that process, they may kill me, but that's what they're going to have to do. And I'm not going to put up with this nonsense anymore.
Okay.
And that was the Patrick Henry message, according to what my elementary school teachers taught me.
Okay.
And so this is really, we're not put here to be slaves, according to the compensatory code. People can get things done through a just system. That's the first premise you start with. Now the white supremacists say, oh no, you can't get anything done unless you dog people around. How are you going to get anything done? Some emperors have said that down through history, so I've been told. They say, hey, you got to have slaves. You got to mistreat people in order to get things done. Otherwise, nothing is going to get done if you don't mistreat somebody. Now, that's one concept. The compensatory codified concept is not true at all. You can get a lot of things done through a just system, a system of justice, where where you guarantee that nobody's mistreated and that everybody gets the constructive help that they need. That's the theory.
Yes, sir.
It's never been done, but that doesn't say it can't be done.
Mm-hmm. All right, 1-877-932-9766 here at the on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Today's Wednesday, the 6th of March, 2019. Unfinished business is the topic, and we have a phone call. Go ahead, line 1.
Hello?
You're on line 1.
Yes, thank you, sir. Good day to you, Mr. Bobby. Good day, Mr. Fuller. I just wanted to, so much that we could talk about, but I wanted to call in and chime in on the woods conversation. One of the issues that I'm seeing, that's being developed now, and it's a very big deal, is our case for reparations, as we're holding a lot of the candidates to the fire and requesting reparations. And what I've seen recently is the candidate, Bernie Sanders, as he's being asked about reparations, he then follows up with the question, well, what do you mean by reparations? But it's actually kind of clear that he knows what reparations is, because he claims himself to be a Jewish person, and they have received reparations as well as countless other groups. But when it comes down to so-called black people requesting reparations, which I believe would be a form of justice, where we're working for everyone to be treated the same, and those who need help the most get it. But when he's asked about reparations, and he's asked, well, what do you mean? And we're coming out and saying money, he's coming back and saying, well, I don't think that, writing a check is the way to go. Meanwhile, everyone else is getting it. So pretty much my question is, what is the codified manner in handling someone who they know what you mean, but they're trying to deflect it because they think that the masses will allow that to happen?
Mr. Fuller?
Well, the first thing on the compensatory code, when we talk about the word reparations, you're talking about a repair job.
Yes.
That's the basic term is repairs. You're repairing something that was broken. All right. So if we're really serious about that, first of all, you set your criteria, regardless of what anybody is saying about what reparations mean, compensation means, et cetera, the compensatory code view, according to what I have written, is that, okay, let's look at what has to be repaired. Well, every aspect of black people's existence on this planet has to be repaired, because every aspect has been seriously broken in every area of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, war. All of it is in complete disrepair. All of it is broken when it comes to the people classified as non-white on this planet. It's devastated. It's flatlined. It needs to be built up from the ground. You got to start almost from scratch, you might say, right from a new blueprint altogether. Just talking about handing out some money and something like that shouldn't even be discussed at all. I mean, that's not a repair job. I mean,
yeah, I think we're just making sure that when they do start the repair job, because anytime reparations has come up, the only thing that they say is education and healthcare, and I think what we're trying to do is make sure that they understand that economics is a part of the repair job. I think, we don't just want to check. We're just trying to make sure that economics is included. Because
economics, according to the code, economics is use of time and energy. That's all basic economics is. So you're talking about repairing what has been done as far as the use of time and energy is concerned. You're talking about going almost into infinity, which is what the way that you look at it according according to the code. That's the codified procedure. This is just a suggestion now from the codified point of view. When you start talking about compensation, that's the word that I use, and reparations, which basically is the same thing. Compensatory or compensation or repair or reparations, same thing. It means you do everything that needs to be done to make everything the way that it should be. That's what we're talking here. And when we say everything, I mean everything, right down to the finest detail. Make everything the way that it should be. So basically, you're just basically saying, from the compensatory view, replace the entire system of white supremacy with the system of justice. That's the reparations. And anything short of that is just playing games. That's correct. In particular, if people just talk about handing out some paychecks and say that's it, that's a done deal. And when everybody who is doing any thinking at all knows that if you pay off black people with money, in about 6 months, they're going to be back at the table asking for more money. Because all you have to do is just go up on the price on everything that black people buy, and black people be out here buying stuff. They buy it from whom? The same people they got it from. So that's just playing games.
Yes.
That's a lot of nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
That's pure nonsense.
And that's why I'm trying to make sure that it's clear that we're not just, asking for a check because, we know that the money will go right back to them. But
in 6 months, they'll all be gone and black people will be back in a begging state again.
Yeah.
We don't want that.
Picture this in your mind. Black people stepping up to a window, getting a paycheck. A huge paycheck, millions of dollars. Now I don't want to be anywhere around us if it's done that way. Because you know what's going to happen. Drugs, guns, complete insanity. Like you wouldn't believe on that Jubilee Day when everybody gets their check of, say, $50 million a person. Look at that scene in the northwestern hemisphere and just imagine what's going on the street where you are. I mean, we got to be serious about that. I mean, I can see black people riding around in limousines. I'm not talking about all, maybe not the majority, but too many. Riding around with white chauffeurs in a stretched limousine, 9 millimeters being fired out of both windows, and some black person say, I'll kill a Negro and pay for him. I got so much money. Diamond rings, bling bling, total foolishness. Let's tell the truth now. The white supremacists know that. Mm-hmm. Wildness like you never seen in your life. $50 million per head. Black people getting paid on one day when everybody, Jubilee Day, Reparations Day, everybody out in the street doing the boogie. Chaos, like you wouldn't believe.
Okay, excuse me, Mr. Fuller. They're giving me this signal to break it off. Gives a whole new meaning to the term Black Friday. TalkToHim@radio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkToHim@radio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That is radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I'm the co-host on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Our topic today is unfinished business, the use or continuing in the theme of words, how to construct and answer questions staying in the compensatory counter-racist codified mode. But at this time, and I'm way late, this is the time for you, Mr. Fuller, in the remaining moments that we have in the hour, for you to speak briefly about your book.
You can get the book by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is a brief description of a basic textbook and addressed to the individual victim of racism about what you can do as an individual person on a daily basis, wherever you happen to be on the planet. Just suggestions about what to do, what not to do, because all problems are solved by something that you do and something that you don't do, something that you say and something that you don't say. In when, where, in every situation you're in, whether it's economics in that category, whether it's in the educational system, whatever that means and wherever it happens to be, whether you're in the entertainment field, whatnot, what you do, what you don't do, what you say, what you don't say. Labor, law, that's how the book is segmented in the 9 areas of activity. Economics through war, starting with economics. What you do and say in economics, and what you do and say and don't say, and what is economics. And that's explained. And how do you use your time and energy? And education, what you do in the field of education and what you avoid doing in the field of education. Right on through sex and religion, right on up through war. How do you conduct warfare, or what they call warfare, and counter war? Because war, according to the code, is a system of white supremacy. That's the biggest war and the only real war that is going on the planet. Everything else is just battles. But all that's explained in the book. But what the individual person can do, wherever he or she may be, who is a victim of racism, wherever he or she may be at any given moment on the planet, that's what the book is about. And you can get it by going to producejustice.com. And the suggestions in it, if they make sense to you, you use them. If they don't make sense to you, you don't use them. Because everything is supposed to be based on logic and based on cause and effect. Something that works for you, that's what you use. If you don't think it will work for you, you back away from it. Go to producejustice.com.
Producejustice.com. Let's see here. I have 4 minutes. I don't know if I'm going to get this call in. Caller, you got to be brief because we only have 4 minutes. What is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Yes, Mr. Fuller. As far as words, they do have to be used according to producing justice, because I see that the only two options is either it's supporting racism if it's not replacing it, and we're not forcing them to kill us, because that means we must be obviously cooperating. So words have to be used in the production of justice and to replace white supremacy. That's the only functional way it could be used. Otherwise, the latter is we're keeping white supremacy going, whether we know it directly or indirectly by use of words. Thank you.
Okay. VGQ there, but Mr. Fuller, in our remaining moments, this hit me a little bit after I started to read the compensatory concept, but it was at the beginning. And I don't know, I think over the air I had an epiphany as to what you were really saying. And it was the saying that you always use when you open up this program. But it is very profound, very powerful. I think many have made the mistake that I did before by going over that. But it was simply the one that you said, and I would like for you to repeat it and repeat it slowly if you do not understand. Can you go there, please, Mr. Fuller?
Yes. It's right in the front of the book.
Yes.
I put it on a separate page in the updated version so people wouldn't miss it. If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Doesn't make any difference what you know about anything. If you're a person who is classified as non-white on this planet and you don't understand white supremacy, what it is and how it works, you're going to be confused about everything in your entire existence. That's a guarantee. Nothing about your entire existence, I don't care how long you stay here on this planet, is going to make sense to you as a person, because everything is tied to the system of white supremacy. Everything, if you're a person of color, everything is tied to it. So if you don't know what you're tied to, every time you make a move, what's tying you and guiding you and directing you and whipping you, if you don't understand that, you are going to be the one thing that no organism should be, and that is confused. And your entire existence, regardless of where you go or who you talk to or what you acquire, you're going to be basically miserable or perpetually, the equivalent of it, insane.
Alrighty, we're going to have to leave it there. TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. Stay tuned for the second hour, and thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You've got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalkTainmentRadio.com. Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest, and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Welcome to the second hour of The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, on today being Wednesday, March the 6th, 2019. Our main topic today is unfinished business, continuing in the theme of words, how to construct and answer questions, staying in the compensatory, counter-racist, codified mode. And your questions today, for those who were in the first hour, are doing just that, which to me is a good sign. But Mr. Fuller is here to answer your questions. In the first hour, we had some unfinished business from last week, and I'll just say this. We I discussed, or made a point of mentioning what the LGBTQIAAP represents. I got that information from a Google search, but there are other searches in there, and that was because somebody had Gmailed me and written in about that, and I did not know. So I took the compensatory, counter-racist, codified way of addressing that question by answering, well, what do you mean, or what is this? What does that mean? So I could clearly understand that. And once I did, I brought that forth and explained that to you. But there may be other definitions out there. Maybe I should use an abridged or unabridged dictionary, as someone pointed out in the first hour. But anyway, Mr. Fuller is here to answer your questions. You can call by calling 1-877-932-9766. If you do Gmail me, the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, @gmail.com. You can also view the program if you'd want to tune in and actually view me. You will not see Mr. Fuller, but you will view me. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but go to the YouTube channel, type in the word Talktainment, and then type in the word radio, and then scroll down to Talktainment number 2. You're right there. Hit the subscribe and like button. We would prefer you do this. Just go to the TalkToHimRadio.com homepage and just hit listen live, and you are immediately there. Hit the subscribe and like button there. And one of the ways that you can hear the program, another one of the ways, is going to Facebook.com/TalkTainment. And you are right there. Okay, all that's out the way. Unfinished business, and now I'm going to get to a Gmail because I don't have a phone call. Mr. Fuller, this comes from Kelvin. He says this. Good morning, Mr. Fuller. I know you usually say it is best to stay in the question mode and avoid making statements to help produce constructive results and to help minimize conflict. However, there are incidents when asking certain types of questions, such as loaded questions, emotionally charged questions, leading questions, non-essential questions, and subjective questions that produce confusions and or conflict between non-white people. What is the codified response to these types of questions? Does the code allow a person to refuse to answer these types of questions? And do you have any suggestions on formatting questions?
Yes. The textbook talks about all problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. No exceptions to that. Every problem in the universe has always been solved through the process of questions and answers. Otherwise, no problem can get solved. So, that being a principle, you stay in the question lane and then beckon for the answers. Now, every question has an answer. There's no such thing as a question without an answer. And just because you don't know the answer doesn't say that the question doesn't have an answer. Every question, the very fact that the question exists means that question has an answer. And the most common answer for most questions is, I don't know. You don't know the answer to the question. But that calls for, is there another question, which is there any way to find out? And that's how all so-called progress is made, because somebody goes to that second question. Is there any way to find out the answer to that question? Can I go to the moon? That's the question. Is it possible to go to the moon? That's another question. How would I go about getting to the moon if I wanted to go? That's another question. All of these questions had answers. And then somebody finally came up with the answers. Oh, is it possible to get to the moon? Well, let's find out the answer to that question. They didn't know in the beginning, presumably. That's why they asked the question, is it possible? And the answer probably at that moment was, oh, I don't know. But I will try to find out if it's possible. If it's possible to go from here to there, in that great big thing sitting up in the sky, and get back, is that possible? It might be possible to get there, but once you get there, is it possible to get back with the resources that you take with you when you go? Since you're not going to have any other resources. So you had to figure all that out. But apparently, according to the books and, and film that's out here, somebody did. Somebody, a lot of people say it never did happen. But, there are a lot of things that have happened that people have witnessed to since they've been on this planet that people say it couldn't happen. I know, just without even talking about going to the moon, I remember when people said no airplane could ever exceed 400 miles an hour. Well, that was, they were doing 600 miles an hour before so-called World War II was over. All right? And people looking at the aircraft that they have here today, I'm quite sure that the first person that saw somebody with a bicycle trying to put wings on it, and somebody would say, there will come a time when there will be 100 people on one aircraft sailing through the sky like a bird. All right? The wings wouldn't be flapping, but they would actually be getting from point A to point B and flying over mountains. And there were plenty of people who said, that's insane. No way can that happen. But it did. So, what is all this discussion about? Anything that people can think about and imagine maybe could be done. And there's reason to believe that you can have a system of justice on this planet in a short period of time if you just figure out what pieces to put together to make it happen.
Yes.
It's something that's never happened in recorded history.
Mm-hmm.
It may have been pre-recorded history, but there's no record where there was nobody being mistreated, and that everybody who needed help got the constructive help that he or she needed. There's nothing in recorded history to say that has ever happened here on planet Earth. But just because it has never happened, lots of things have never happened until somebody made it happen.
Okay. Alrighty. We're Wednesday, March the 6th, 2019. Unfinished business is the topic, and we have line 1 open. Go ahead, line 1. You're on.
Yes, it's Mr. Walker again. As far as the use of words, you know how in the beginning of the Bible it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. And since it's safe to say that the white supremacists had something to do with making the Bible, were they potentially comparing themselves to God? And since they always use deceit as a basic means of doing what they do, I believe that it's safe to say that words are their chief weapon and deception, and we must be conscious of, is it being, the words that we're using, are they being constructive or non-constructive? Like Neely first says, put everything in 2 categories. It's either constructive or non-constructive. Thank you. That's it.
Okay. Mr. Fuller, I guess that's under VGQ. What say you, sir?
Yeah, it seems like he was making a statement, so people can think about the statement made.
Okay. Alrighty. Thank you, my brother, Mr. Walker. Going to the Gmails, it says this. This comes from Cleophas. It says this. I want to first ask you, Mr. Fuller, if you've seen this Facebook meme which says, quote, how black people are with each other, end of quote. And it shows the image of a roaring lion ready to attack. And at the bottom of the picture, it says, quote, how black people are with the white supremacists, end of quote. And it shows the image of the cowardly lion from the Wizard of Oz. Basically, we're savages and dangerous with each other, but cordial, polite with those who most want to harm us. Any thoughts on that, Mr. Fuller?
Well, I've talked on this program about prisoners of war. I've been emphasizing that lately more than anything, so the people get a picture of what our real status is. When I say our, I mean the non-white people of this planet.
Mm-hmm.
We are prisoners of war. We were born in prison. War was declared on us before we were born. Anybody in the category of being a person of color, anybody who's non-white, is a person who is supposed to be subject to a warlike condition and made a prisoner of war before birth, meaning whomever's going to have that black baby. War, you make war against that person by putting that person into captivity, putting that person under your power. That's what white supremacy is. Take that black female and say, you are now under my power, and that baby that you're carrying is going to be under my power. So that's been passed on from generation to generation. So it's a generational thing. As far back as people say that, well, we don't know exactly when white supremacy started, it's been very argumentative. Some people say it as far back as 600 years. Some people say 2,000 years. I say I don't know, because I don't know. Different people argue about that, when it actually started. got the idea that a person of color is supposed to be mistreated and put in captivity by a person who is non-color, presumably a person classified as white. When that idea actually took off, the exact date, the exact time, the exact place, the person who took the first black person into captivity based on color, I say I don't know, and I don't think anybody would know, and put it down in writing that you could rely on it. So I actually say I don't know. But what I do know is that is the system that is in place right this minute here in 2019 in the calendar year, according to the Christian calendar, as they call it, that you have a system of white supremacy firmly in place, where a person who has color in his or her skin is supposed to be, according to white supremacist ideology, a person who is in captivity, a person who is subject to white supremacy, subject to be mistreated by law, be dominated and mistreated simply based on you are the incorrect color. If you have color in your skin, if you're classified as something other than white, you are born to be mistreated. That's the doctrine of white supremacy, which is the most powerful government on the planet Earth in 2019. So, as a prisoner of war, you just look at yourself as being a prisoner. Now, what do prisoners do to get to the point of the question that's being raised? Prisoners have a tendency, if you just study any prison system, which is what white supremacy is, prisoners have a tendency to fight each other more than they fight anybody. So that goes with the territory. And as long as you have white supremacy, you will have black people acting out in hostility toward black people. That's why the code says the less contact we have with each other, like prisoners in a prison yard, if one prisoner is over on one side of the prison yard and the other prisoner is over on the other side, they are less likely to have conflict. The less contact they have with each other, the less conflict they have. Because the law of physics says it's kind of difficult for people to have conflict with each other who are not in contact with each other. So the code book says that I have written, black people should only make contact for constructive reasons. That's an absolute must. Only when you have something constructive to say or to do. This habit we have of what we call black culture of just hanging out, you might say, with each other, with no constructive reason for doing so, is a recipe for disaster. And that's been proven over and over and over again. That's why you have shell casings all over the street in what we call the black neighborhood or the so-called black community, which is non-existent. Black people don't have a community. In a community, that doesn't happen. That's impossible for that to happen in a community. There's nothing but a big prison yard.
Okay. TalkToHim@radio.com is a 24/7 no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now, here are three that I'm going to share with you. The Wellness Spot with Tona Corinne. Everlasting Life with Michelle Vanal, and It's Your Time to Travel with Ricky Tias. Now, these three particular shows are exclusive to TalkTainmentRadio.com, and using compensatory codified logic, what do you mean by exclusive? Check that out and see what that means. Anyway, you can't get those anywhere else but here on TalkTainmentRadio.com. And now, all you have to do is go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage, and you'll see a list at the very top that have programs on it, or that has programs on it. And just click on programs, and what will come up on the screen is all the listings of the current programs that TalkTainmentRadio.com has, click on whichever one you'd like and check it out and see. Some of you'll like, some of them you may not like. But the only way you're going to find out is if you click on and see what it's like. Don't be like my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Get some knowledge on that. Anyway, go to the TalkTameItRadio.com homepage for the scheduled times and the little bit about the host. All these is exclusive from TalkTameItRadio.com. That is radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, and we are still basically on words. The title of this show is Unfinished Business, continuing in the theme of words, how to construct and answer questions staying in the compensatory, counter-racist, codified way. Staying in that way so that you can better understand what is said and what is being said to you. And Mr. Fuller has been suggesting ways to do that, staying focused in doing that. We will go back to the second part of the question by Cleophas, but right now we have a phone line on line number 1. You are on with Mr. Fuller.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Mr. Fuller, Mr. Bobby. I wanted to ask Mr. Fuller, just building off what he just said about as we refine no contact, no conflict, how do we expect to have successful businesses in the black community, or how can we set up successful black businesses in the black community while still adhering to no contact, no conflict? For example, if I wanted to open up a laundromat, or if I wanted to open up a convenience store in the black, quote-unquote, community where we all live together at, which is just a prison yard, as you just stated, how can we expect that to be a successful business? It's going to turn into black people contacting each other. Your laundromat is going to be a source of crime. Your convenience store is going to be a source of people hanging out, and most likely going to be crime. So my question is, how can we expect to have successful black businesses and build the economic structure of the black community while adhering to no contact, no conflict? Is that something that we can expect that we can accomplish?
Okay, Mr. Fuller?
I just said it a couple of minutes ago. There's no such thing as a black community. That's number one. It's impossible to have a black community and shell casings on the ground at the same time. That's not a community. Proof that it's not community is you got shell casings, shiny shell casings, 9mm, all over the place. Wherever you find black people, you find dead black people, you find black people robbing and stealing from each other, you find black people finding excuses, and that's all it is, to attack each other about nothing. I don't like the way you looked at me. That's contact. So, if you start talking about black business, we're still in a prison yard. And as long as we are acting like this, the black business is not going to be successful, the so-called black business. Why? Because the contact is going to be toxic. Number one, you got a so-called black business. For that business to thrive, black people have to have what? Money. So the white supremacists see to it that black people don't have enough money to get all the things that they want when they go into a black business, which the prices are going to be high because the white supremacists are going to see to that. So anybody who's tried to go into business, in answer to your question, if you don't believe it, try to go into business yourself. For one thing, you're going to have to deal with black people who are going to be stealing all the time. And black people will steal faster from black people than they will anybody. Why? Because it's easier to get away with it. That's why. The same reason that we kill each other more than we kill anybody. Why? Because it's easier to get away with it. That's why. Like in a prison yard, we can't get away from the concept of we are in a prison yard. We're not in some so-called community. That does not exist. There's no such thing as a prison community. It's just a whole bunch of prisoners walking around bumping into each other and then start swinging at each other because on account of the bumping. That's all that we are. We're nothing else other than that. And as long as you have the system of white supremacy, you're going to have this continue. That's an absolute. There's no way to pretty that up. There's no way to make a prison pretty. We keep trying to figure out how to do that. It's not going to happen. Ugly things happen in prison because that's what a prison is designed to do. You have to actually dismantle the entire prison. And the compensatory codified way is the only way that I know to do it.
Okay.
You stay away from each other.
Okay.
To have something constructive to do or say.
Okay.
I mean, even if you have to go across the street to keep from passing by a black person, it means that when you happen to bump into each other, it means death. It's better for you to go a block out of your way so that the black person didn't even see you, because black people have a tendency to gravitate toward each other when we see each other.
Okay.
And then when we get to each other, we meet up after that phony high-fiving and handshaking and hugging that we do, which is 90% phony. We do more high-fiving, handshaking, and hugging than anybody on the planet. And then right after that is gunfire.
Okay.
That follows all that hugging and kissing and whatnot.
Yes, sir. Mr. Fuller, with that you just stated being said, also previously you said about no contact. If a non-white person, black person, wanted to open up a business, how would we do that if we are to have no contact? How is that possible? Or maybe I missed something, so could you explain how we would do that?
We have to be a people who, whenever we make contact, I just said it, every contact has to have a constructive result.
Yes.
I mean, like black people's house parties and whatnot. I mean, you should ask yourself before you even say, let's have a party, what's going to be the constructive result? Is anybody going to be gossiping at this party? Well, you know how we are. Yeah, that's exactly why we shouldn't have a party. Because somebody's going to gossip about somebody. That's one of the 10 stops in the code book. Stop gossiping. If we can't stop gossiping, forget about the party. No gossiping at that party. Now, what is gossip? Gossip is saying something about somebody that you wouldn't say to the person if the person was sitting there listening to you. I mean, see, we need some strict rules in order to come out of this hole that we are in, this prison that we are in. We need a code. Gossiping, not gossiping, is a part of the code. That's one of the 10 stops, along with the fighting and the killing. You got to stop killing. Stop fighting. I mean, you open a store, and you're not in there 15 minutes before somebody's got a gun in your face, or before somebody's offspring come in there snatching all the little things that are sitting on the counter and running out and running down the street laughing. Now, you're going to be out of business if that keeps up, and it's going to keep up. You can almost guarantee it. Anybody who's ever tried it has found that out. Why? Because the people don't have money. And even if they do have money, they figure that you being black, with the attitude that black people have toward other black people, that poison that we carry around, that we say that we don't have, which we are lying, we can't stand each other. And can't stand each other to look like we're doing well. Okay? We can't stand that. If that guy looks like he's being successful running that little store, you're going to try to mess it up. Tell the truth about us and all this so-called phony love that we say have. I mean, and the more we tell ourselves that big lie, the worse our situation gets, because you can't thrive on a lie. And black people lie to themselves more than anybody on the planet. Always bragging about Black History Month and how great we are when we are at the bottom of every ladder that was ever built.
Wow. Woo. Okay. I tell you what, I'm going to take this phone call after the break because I don't have enough time here. We're getting to expire for this particular period there. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And our topic today is unfinished business. That's for March the 6th, 2019. Unfinished business, continuing in the theme of words, how to construct and answer questions, staying in the compensatory counter-racist codified way. And Mr. Fuller has been addressing that. Before we take this phone call and get to this Gmail, if we do, thank you for those of you who have donated and are continuing to donate. Our advertisement was by Brother K was mentioned at this bottom of the hour as we went into the break. There was a brother that called in on the first hour that indicated that when he hit the gold donate button that he experienced a problem. If you do experience a problem when you do that or have tried to make donations and it didn't go through, you can do what this brother did, and he just put a check, for those of you who write checks, he just put it, or money order you can, he just put it in the mail and mailed it to 462 East Walnut Street. And I believe, is that zip code 43215? Yeah, Columbus, Ohio, 43215, and we will get that. Now, as we speak, someone is working on that problem so that you can donate without having to go through that. But if you have to, 462 East Walnut Street, Columbus, Ohio, 43215. With that being said, let's go to the phone lines. Caller, you are on with Mr. Fuller, line number 1. Go ahead, please.
Yes, hello. This is Mr. Walker from Pennsylvania. I wanted to ask Mr. Neely Fuller if critical thinking could be used as a tool in the employment, in the production of justice, as far as like questions as far as who, what, where, when, why, how, and some of the questions of who is just a brief couple questions. Is who benefits from this? Who is this harmful to? Who makes decisions about this? Who is most directly affected? Who have you also heard discuss this? Who would be the best person to consult? Who would be the key people in this? Who deserves recognition for this? That's just the who part. But yes, can critical thinking be used in the employment to produce justice? Thank you.
Mr. Fuller?
Yeah, pretty outlined there the details of what's under the title of critical thinking. And what he just outlined there, questions, that's the correct procedure. I'm going to say it again. I never stop saying it because it is the way to go. And I hope everybody else gets that message and see if it makes sense to them. And that is, all problems, without exception, are at all times, everywhere in the universe, solved through the process of questions and answers. So even if you don't use the umbrella term critical thinking, just say questions and answers. That's it. Every question has an answer. It's just a matter of finding out what the answer is. And what's the purpose of questions and answers? To solve problems. If you stop and think about it. School. When you go to a school, what is a school? It's a place where you go to do what? Ask questions and get answers to the questions. If you go to court to do what? Ask questions to get answers to the questions. In order to do what? Come to the conclusion about what to do and what not to do. That's the bottom line, cause and effect. What to do and what not to do. That's what it all comes down to. Everything in the known universe is about what to do and what not to do. Even with squirrels or ants or turtles, that turtle crawling around on the beach got a question. What to do and what not to do all day long. That's what that turtle is faced with. What to do, what not to do. How close to get to those big waves. And for what reason? Why am I down on this beach? That's the question. Maybe I should go over into those bushes over there, way off the beach. Why? Because that's where the food is. I'm not getting anything down here on the sand. Am I getting anything down here on the sand? That's what the turtle is asking. In turtle language. Him or herself. And the turtle says, well, I was going to spend the day on the beach, but looks like food is scarce. So I'm going over here into the bushes and see if I can find some food of some type. Turtle food. Won't satisfy everybody else, like the snakes or the birds maybe. But for turtles, might find something that will fit a turtle. But I asked the question, should I go over there or remain over here? Will something wash up in some of these waves that I can use for food? Questions and answers for a turtle. It's no different for people. Each and every day, every minute of the day. What's the best thing to do with this moment that I have right now? That's a question you should ask yourself. That's a question that Neely Fuller should ask himself while he's talking about this question's answers. What's the best thing? What is he doing right now? What is Neely Fuller doing right now? That's the question. Is it producing anything of constructive value? That's another question.
Yes, sir.
And it's going to be yes or no.
Okay.
And Fuller, you can't lie to yourself. Is it going to produce anything of constructive value? And if it's not, why are you doing it, Fuller? See what I mean?
Yes, sir.
That's how that works. Questions and answers.
Alrighty. Continuing with Mr. Cleophas's question, he said, Mr. Fuller, lastly, I want to ask you, sir, if you agree with some of your critics out here who say we shouldn't ever say white supremacy because it implies we are affording them godlike, small g, godlike status or the label of being superior when they're anything but, considering they had to cheat, kill, lie, and to conquer us. Should we call it a system of white domination instead of supreme? Say the system of white domination. Just asking, Mr. Fuller, for a friend. What do you have to say to this?
Oh, so rather than use white supremacy, use white domination? That's the suggestion?
How do
the word for supremacy? Is that the understanding that I'm getting? It's all about getting an understanding.
Yes.
Okay, so when I look at domination and I look at supreme, I don't see where that's a great improvement, but that's just me.
Yes, sir.
Because it seems like I'm saying the same thing, but I'm saying it in such a way that it might have a different effect. I don't know. I could say white domination, white supreme, white domination, white supreme, white domination. Now, what effect does changing it have on my thinking to cause me to act differently? I don't see where I'm concerned. It doesn't work for me. Now, if it works for somebody else, that comes under VGQ. If a person says, I'm not going to call it supremacy, I'm going to call it domination, because that makes me think better. It makes me act better. That's an improvement over my reaction to the use of that term. So if that works for you, under VGQ, Victims Guarantee Qualification, you are qualified to do that. See, I'm not going to use that term supremacy. I'm going to use the term domination. Why? Because I can get things done better using domination than I can supreme. Supreme there's something about that word, it makes me stop doing what I'm doing. But when I say domination, I'm motivated to get a lot of things done that need to be done.
Yes, sir.
So then use domination.
Okay.
You just use whatever words. Words are nothing but tools. So use whatever words will best fit you. Supreme works for me because it reminds me that I'm in a weak position. And like a person trying out for the NFL or something like that, when I look at that other team and I say, hey, the tactics that they are using are supreme to the tactics that I'm looking at.
Yes,
That's if I'm I'm a coach or if I'm an owner, I'll say, well, that team seems to have their act together. And it seems like this stuff over here that I'm doing, I got it all incorrect, and I am likely to lose if I get out there against them.
Yes, sir. So
come football season, I'm going to scrap this plan that I got because it is inferior to that supreme plan that they have. Those plays that they're calling are out of sight because they keep making touchdowns like you wouldn't believe.
Yes, sir.
Using that scheme that they use.
Now,
I'm going to study what they're doing, and I'm going to try to get out of this inferior position that my team is in.
Okay. So by your example just there, before we go to this break, you use the codified response by asking questions. What is dominance? What is supremacy? And employed in your summation, you use investigation to determine which word was best. Would that be a correct assessment?
Which word would work best for you as an individual person?
Yes.
Each individual reacts to words in different ways.
Okay.
People do.
Okay.
That's just the way it is.
Yes.
So some people will say that about, almost any two people will say, well, I don't particularly care for the way you use words. I would like to say that I am being reimbursed rather than saying that I am being compensated.
Yes.
All right? And you say, well, does that work for you better? Does that make you act better? Does that improve your reaction? And the guy say, yeah, when I use that, I feel invigorated. There's something about that word reimbursed. I mean, it gives me energy. Compensation, that doesn't do it for me. That falls flat.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, use the word reimburse. The word is nothing but a tool to get a job done.
Okay.
Job done.
Okay, TalkTameRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTameRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That is radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby, and you are listening to Mr. Neely Fuller on TalkTameRadio.com. The compensatory concept, or our on-screen topic, is for March the 6th, 2019, unfinished business, continuing in the theme of words, how to construct and answer questions, staying in the compensatory, counter-racist, codified way. But at this particular time is the time where we have Mr. Fuller discuss his book. Mr. Fuller?
Go to producejustice.com. I adopted that term for brevity, and also it gets right to the point of what all of this talk that I'm doing every week is supposed to be about. Not just getting rid of racism, but replacing it with something better than anything that has ever existed before. And that presumably will be something that has never existed in recorded history, and that is a thing called justice, which means balance between people, which means, according to the compensatory definition that I gave it, the word justice, guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. Worldwide, 24/7, every minute of every day. And that should be what we call the correct culture. Not just black culture, but the correct culture. get that done, which has never been done in recorded history as far as I know. And the textbook for victims of racism, the first order of business, you can't have justice and racism on the same planet at the same time. It doesn't compute. So you have to get rid of racism, white supremacy, and don't replace it with another form of racism. Racism should never have existed in the first place. You can get a lot of things done through racism, but what's incorrect about racism is it destroys millions of people in the process of getting some oil out of the ground or whatever, or people running around having fun. Well, there's lots of ways to have fun other than destroying people. But the system of white supremacy, fun is synonymous with killing and lying and cheating. And if you look at their record, the things that they brag about, that's why that has to be gotten rid of. Everybody wants to have fun, everybody wants to have glory, and everybody wants material comfort. But getting those three things through the system of white supremacy has huge flaws. So a system of justice, you can accomplish it the same thing, theoretically, since it's never been done, without mistreating anyone. White supremacy is about mistreatment. Justice is about non-mistreatment, treating people correctly at all times. So the textbook for victims of racism is supposed to help the individual person to do this, the victims of racism, to eliminate racism, and in the process, produce a thing called justice. Go to producejustice.com, and this is how you get the instructions for getting the textbook for the individual person heading in that direction.
Alrighty. Okay, quick reminder for next week's show before we take the call. Mr. Jason Blount is asking a question in the compensatory mode. What evidence is there to prove racism, white supremacy was started by a person? That's for next week's show. The question should be, what is evidence, what it is, and how it works. That is your assignment to do for next week's show. But for this week's show, we are discussing unfinished business, continuing in the theme of words, how to construct and answer questions, staying in the compensatory, counter-racist, codified way. And with that, we have a phone call on line number 1. Go ahead with your question, please.
Good morning. This is James calling from North Carolina. Mr. Fuller, I heard the statements you made earlier during this program regarding the issues that a black person may have if they decided they wanted to try to engage in some type of business among their own people. Now, I visited your website and I saw that there is a tab or a heading that a person can click on under the name affiliate. And there's a copy of the contractual agreement that a person can read if they have a desire to sell your book the correct way. Now, since you are the person that came up with the concept of the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept, my question to you is, are you using the code system concept as a guide to help you interact in business with non-white people who desire to sell your book?
Am I using the compensatory concept to guide non-white people to help me sell a book?
Yes, sir. How are, if you're using the code system concept as a way to help you to best interact with people to help sell your book, how are you doing that?
Oh, I'm doing it because
there might be some people like myself who are thinking about doing that.
Oh, you're thinking about doing what now?
selling your book.
Selling my book?
Yes, sir. Oh. The website, like I said.
Oh, well, I have people who, who know something about that type of thing. See, I just wrote a book, and I'm trying to distribute it all over the world as best I can. So I have people who are looking into that, who say that they know about this thing called marketing. I am not very well versed in that type of thing. So in answer to your question, I think, as best I can, I have people who say that who have come to me, and I have gone to people who I have said, if you can figure out a way that I can best do this, I am very interested in doing just that. All right? So that's where I am now. So in answer to your question, that is the answer. Yes. Am I trying to find people who can best disseminate the book so that the word gets out and they can be compensated adequately for putting forth the effort that they have? Because I believe in compensation. I believe that whatever effort people do to do anything to help anybody, they should be compensated in some kind of way, monetarily or in other ways. But that's the title of the book, compensation. You put forth an effort and you get a return, constructive return for the efforts that you put forth. So yes, in answer to the question, am I looking for ways? Yes, I'm looking for those ways. And so that's why anybody who has a suggestion about how to go about doing it and how they could go about doing it, just send it to producejustice.com. And there are people that will be turned over to who will look at it and go forward from there. Is that
like I said, sir, on your website, there is a business affiliate contractual agreement that a person can actually see and read, and they can apply to interact with you and your business as a business affiliate. And I have thought about that, and I just thought that since you mentioned things about issues that black people will have if they want to start a business, and they'll be engaging in business with other non-white people, I just thought that was a doorway for me to mention something that I had already been thinking about, and maybe that might also benefit some other people.
Well, yes, sir. So the avenue that I have provided in a compensatory way is to simply say go to producejustice.com with a proposal, and then that will be turned over to the people who I have talked to who say they know something about marketing.
Well, you hear the music. I got to leave it there, but very interesting, James from North Carolina. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. TalkTimeAtRadio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your questions, and stay tuned for next week as we will do James Blunt's question about what evidence is there to prove racism and white supremacy was started by a person. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you, Carlos, and we will see you next week. Thank you.